Hello everyone and welcome back to another tier list video. I quite enjoyed making the last tier list. I did map tier list that you can go check out if you're interested in that kind of thing. Um, and I thought it'd be about time that I actually did a killer one because I don't have a killer tier list out there. I don't know if people care about what I consider to be a killer's position on a tier list, but this is just a thing that people can reference to if they want an idea. And also for myself to be like, yeah, do I still think that this killer is in C tier, or what will the buffs do to them? And so it gives me a better idea about killer strength and stuff, and it's just something I can cross-reference to. So I'm going to just go through in order of the killers on this list here, which is the order they are in game, their order of pretty much their order of release. In fact, this is the order of their release because Huntress is one of the free killers, so she would actually appear over here in game between Nurse and Myers. But this is, I believe, their order of release, which the only thing it matters for is Huntress is in the wrong position. But we'll go through in order, come out to the most recent killer, the Onryō or Sadako. Uh, Given that I've played every single killer in the game, I own every single killer. I haven't played them all a ton. There's others I played more for certain, but I feel confident enough to say that I can at least get them in the ballpark for all of them. Having experience playing them all a bit. I've not only ever played like a killer just once or something. Probably my least played killer is Clown, um, but I still know that he's pretty weak, kind of thing. Um, so we'll get started then. Just normal standard tier list. I have an S plus on my tier list, and we'll get to why that is. Um, and we'll get going. So the very first killer we got is Trapper, Evan McMillan. I won't do that with all of them because he's one of the few people I actually remember their names. Um, I think a killer who's normally, and by the way, I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about the positioning of the killer. Otherwise I'd just show you a picture of the tier list. I think he's one of the killers who uh, is kind of underappreciated in what he can do, but definitely struggles against some of the strongest teams. As a result, I personally would, because I normally have quite good success with him, I personally would put him in low C tier. At the moment, he's just in C tier by himself. That's it. At the end of the tier list. Boom. No, I personally think that he fits more in a low C tier than D tier, where a lot of people would put him. Because I think even against the best teams, you can create a lot of pressure by using what's going on around you. Because altruism will always, against like a comp team, don't get me wrong, he's one of the worst killers you could be playing, but even against a strong team, when they're really altruistic, he can really punish altruism, and that's where a lot of his power comes from. But he's definitely not the best in the game. But I still think people don't give him enough credit. Next up is Wraith. Um, Wraith is someone who, for a while, was actually pretty decently. He was nothing, and then he was pretty damn strong when they buffed his movement speed up. However, they kind of overlooked his lunge, and as a result, they ended up nerfing his lunge when he comes out of cloak, which means you can't use his paladin loops as much now, which sucks. You just have to play him as hit and run, and hit and run doesn't normally work very well against strong groups, especially you bring strong items. Organized groups will always do so well against hit and run, which is something we're going to talk about when we get to the Onryō. So I really don't think he's that powerful. I think he's C tier, just above Trapper, possibly. Um, Next up is Hillbilly. Now, Hillbilly's a weird one because you have to be good at Hillbilly. The others, like, you can be average and you'll get good use out of their power. Billy, you have to be an amazing person, like, in general. Like, to be able to play Billy is incredibly, incredibly tough. And by the way, I might move these around later as I go. Actually, that's not quite right, but we'll get to that. But Hillbilly, you know, you have to be really good with your mechanical skill to be able to use him effectively. But we're judging it off of someone who, you know, like pretty much their peak power. I'm not saying like their peak add-ons because, you know, like Myers with Tombstone or whatever. This is like general, just kind of playing them. You know, maybe use some good add-ons every now and then, but it's not realistic to use the strongest add-ons every time. So I personally think Hillbilly is, if you're playing him really well, probably mid to bottom B tier. Definitely above these guys, but obviously you don't see them as much because he's really hard to play, and he doesn't have as good add-ons anymore. But he can do pretty decently well. Now, Nurse is the reason we have an S+ tier, because Nurse is so ridiculously strong, she needs to be above every other killer by a whole tier. She is ridiculously stronger than the killers beneath her. Ridiculously stronger. Like the next best killer, you know, we'll get to that is, but they don't compare to the power that a good Nurse player can have. And she, you know, she doesn't even need to have crazy good add-ons to be able to perform like that. She just can absolutely obliterate a team in seconds, and no one else can do that. Personally, I don't think she's healthy for the game. It's a weird one. She just is so out of bounds for the rest of the game. It just doesn't make sense. You can't compare her to the rest of them, and she's a very limiting factor. I've spoken about this before. She limits design for perks and maps and things because of how she works. You know, you can make certain things because she can teleport. You know, she doesn't have to deal with pallets or windows. She doesn't have to deal with loops. She just, you know, teleports. And so if you're good and you're just good at landing your blinks, you'll absolutely destroy people. Okay, next up is Michael. So Michael is another one of these that he has some very strong add-ons, which, you know, you can use, but you can't use them consistently a lot of the time because the best ones are iridescent, and then, you know, Tombstone piece is purple, so it's very hard to get them because of how much BP they cost, and obviously those add-ons are rarer. But I personally think he's definitely even weaker than Trapper, and I know probably a lot of people think that's crazy, especially given the add-ons that you can use on him, but I just think in general, throughout more matches you played, you know, Trapper can be more consistent with comebacks than Michael can. He definitely struggles in that regard. And once again, against really good teams, where you're just having to loop around structures, you know, he hasn't really got any anti-loop. He vaults windows faster, and that's pretty much it. You know, he's got nothing to help him deal with pallets. And even the faster vaulting windows isn't like crazy speed fast. Maybe you can stack bamboozle on top of it or something, but then you're giving up a perk that could be used for pop or ruin or whatever. So, you know, you're just losing a lot for that. So I definitely think he's D tier. So I'm gonna have to cough now. Yeah. After that, it is Hag, and I think Hag comfortably sits in S tier. A lot of people really underestimate Hag and put her further down. I don't quite know why. She does not need, like some of the other killers, she does not need add-ons to work well. You know, her base kit is one of the strongest base kits in the game. In the same way, she doesn't need to worry about perks as much. Just the natural pressure she builds from, you know, having map-wide pressure as long as you put traps in the right places. Just can be great. Obviously, she can camp hooks really well without actually having to camp them. Just a really strong killer. She doesn't quite have Nurse's pressure though. You know, people have to run into your traps for you to apply pressure. Well, not necessarily, but to apply downing pressure and to apply injure pressure, they have to run into your traps. Nurse, obviously, you don't need to worry about that, so she's just better in that regard. But still a very good killer. And quite a decent one to play, even if you're not that experienced. She doesn't require much mechanical skill. She's one of the best killers for not needing to learn how a specific killer You know, she doesn't have a ridiculously high skill ceiling like Nurse, and even like Blight, um, even Spirit, who's arguably not strong now. Um, she you don't have to worry about that as much, which is nice. You know, it's nice to have a strong killer who's a little bit easier to play. Um, okay, after that we have got Doctor. So Doctor is someone else who's got a lot of power to shut down loops if you use him well. Um, he's just a kind of decently average killer in a lot of ways. He's got a bit of detection. He's got the anti-loop. He's got a bit of natural slowdown in terms of the snapping out of it, which just kind of makes him average, and that is why I would slap him in the B tier. I think possibly a Billy can do better than a Doctor, so I put him just underneath Billy. Not much else to be said about him. Just a very average killer, um, who you can do basic things with, and once again, you know, not a high skill ceiling or whatever, so very easy to play. Next up is Huntress, our first ranged killer. She is very strong. Um, if used in the right hands, can be very devastating to a team in the same way the Nurse gets Snowball. Um, but she is kind of just a worse nurse in a lot of scenarios, which you know kind of sucks. But she she definitely still has a lot of that power that she can make good use of, which I think is why she definitely belongs in the A tier of killers. One of the most popular played killer as well, which I'm not too surprised. She's very interesting in what she does compared to the other base killers. Trapper, Wraith, Hillbilly, and herself, and then Nurse. Obviously, Nurse is just really hard to play. Um, so yeah, she makes for an interesting playstyle. But yeah, no, not much else I can say about her besides that. Next up is Bubba. So another chainsaw wielding person. Um, he's not got Billy's movement speed, and you're always going to end up comparing Bubba and Billy together because they are, you know, insta down killers, who don't need to charge up a power or anything in any way, like Oni does, or like Michael does, or like Ghostface does. You know, they've got their power pretty much ready to go. So they're always providing a threat in that way. You know, they can. You know, it's why they make good hook campers and why Bubba's an amazing hook camper. Just because you can provide an instant threat for downing somebody without really any preparation. Um, for that reason, even though he doesn't have Billy's mobility doesn't matter as much anymore. Because a lot of maps uh, don't have that big expanse where you need to worry about getting far. There are more maps in general that are a little bit closer, and it's just a lot easier to control. Even though that I said, you know, we're thinking about this as a really good Billy, I think Bubba in general, you will have an easier time in the match. Even if you're a really good Billy, you'll just have an easier time playing Bubba in terms of downing people and applying pressure. You know, you can just camp so easily with him. So I think I put him just above Billy. Ooh, next up is Freddy, who is someone who's fallen from grace since his nerf. Someone you'd see a fair lot of before, you just barely ever see now, which is kind of sad. Um, he now obviously has fewer snares and he walks slower when he's placing them. Fewer pallet dreams during pallets he can place as well for some reason. Um, and his add-ons got changed. Like he got so many things nerfed about him. It's a classic one of these things with behavior where they take so much away, and we'll see this with Deathslinger later. They take so much away without giving him anything. You know, he didn't get any good add-ons out of it in return. Freddy's now one of these where he's got a load of useless add-ons that there's just no point using them. He is just kind of bad now. The only thing that you know really is going for him is his teleport. You know, nobody up until very recently had a teleport quite like Freddy. You know, demos you had to set up to do it. Is there anyone else that got around the map easily? Don't think so, no. Hag technically could. But nobody had the power and control of Freddy's teleport, which is where most of his strength comes from. Which I think puts him in a better position than a lot of people expect. Personally, I think that puts him just about above Wraith in C tier. But it's kind of straddling the line of it in terms of the power there, because obviously Wraith has got a lot of mobility himself. But I definitely think he used to be high B tier. He's definitely not B tier anymore. C tier somewhere for sure. Um, After that, we've got the Pig. Now, Pig is a very simple one. I think Pig is one of the worst killers in the game. There's a bit of bias there because I really don't like playing her. Um, she has got natural slowdown, but if we're thinking you're going up against at least, decently average survivors, they're not going to die to her pig traps. Maybe babies will, but in your normal matches, you're not going to see that. And it's very easy for them to get them off early. It's just how probability works. The more they do, obviously, the more likely they're going to get them off as time goes. Um, so more often than not, you'll see people get them off on the second try, which is just very annoying, and it doesn't actually slow down the game that much based on how close the boxes were. Um, Maybe it buys you 30 seconds, which you're like, oh, that's not too bad. But then you have to remember she doesn't really have a power besides that, because her stealth is just kind of crap. It's just worse than Ghostface's stealth. Her ambush pallets is kind of just worse than Wraith's, or it's about similar to Wraith's now, to be fair. So she just doesn't have much going for her. Um, she's harder to play than Wraith as well, which doesn't help. But I think that's why she puts her at the bottom. Once again, another killer who can, or used to be able to use really strong add-ons. Her add-ons now aren't as strong, but they still can be useful. And that's where her power comes from. But you can't use them every match. They're the more expensive add-ons. Two purple add-ons now required to do anything too mean with her, which is not feasible. You can't bring that every match. Okay, but don't worry, Pig, because you're not actually at the bottom, because that is reserved for Clown. Now, a lot of people put Clown higher up, especially since his buff. I still maintain that he's just very bad. He's got no mobility, he's got no natural stealth, and his anti-looping stuff is just very mediocre. The yellow bottles are pretty much pointless. I don't know. I don't care what people tell me. You might as well just throw a pink one. They slow down the survivor more than the yellow ones speed you up. So there are very few scenarios where you need to make use of both. And even then, why not just play? If it's on a pallet loop, why not just play Wraith or Pig or Onryō to do some mind games on the actual pallet? He's just kind of bad. And if they drop the pallet, you can't use it. You can't use your power. Um, and on a lot of maps, there are so many pallets that you can't be like, oh, it's fine, I'll just break the pallet. Because you break the pallet, they've already got into a window loop, they run you for a bit. You've got no catch up. He's not just going to catch people off guard. He's not got some weird pattern. It's not like Trapper, where there might be a trap further ahead, or Wraith, where you can catch up with Cloaked, or Freddy, who you can teleport with. Um, he's just got none of that, which just sucks. And he hasn't got the lethality of like Michael, and at least Pig can be stealthy and has the traps. Um, I genuinely think he's awful. Right, now next up is Spirit. Now Spirit is a tough one for me because I don't think she's actually that much weaker after the nerf, and against like kind of average survivors, she's even stronger, which is kind of funny, because you can just mind game them with your phasing noise. I'm tempted to say that I think she is probably just below Hag now. She's still very strong, and this is a very close line between the two of them. But I think Hag can more consistently get good value out of her traps, even against a good team. Against a good or a very good team, Spirit gets beaten a lot now, because they will just see every kind of mind game you're going for, which is a shame. But she was someone that's toned down. Definitely beforehand, before her nerf, she would have been she was the closest thing to Nurse here. She would have been halfway towards S+, you know, just kind of getting to the cusp of it. But, you know, Nurse wasn't nerfed and Spirit was, so here we are. Nice. After that, we have got Legion. Now, Legion's getting a rework soon, so I don't know how much this is going to matter. They're probably not going to get reworked that much. Come on, let's be honest, it's behavior. They're going to like change some numbers and be like, oh, look. Um, which kind of sucks, but um, they've got a lot of group pressure. They've probably got some of the strongest map pressure in the game, depending on what map you go to. Though, you know, if you're on a smaller map, then definitely. But nobody quite applies pressure to multiple survivors like Legion does. I mean, Nurse technically can. You know, if they're all together, she can just blink between them all and down them. That's fine. But Legion, you know, can just apply a lot of injured pressure, which just slows the game down as well, which helps. You know, they've got to spend 14 seconds mending, which is good. I think that therefore puts Legion actually at the top of C tier. Probably just above Freddy, just because of the kind of stuff you can pull off, because there's potential for a little bit of anti-loop when you catch out survivors by tricking them, or by using your power to kind of block them off from going to certain loops and things. I think that just about puts them above Freddy, etc. Okay, next up is Plague. Now, Plague is someone who got quite a bit buffed recently. A little while back, and as a result, I think she's pretty damn strong now. She's quite tough to use though, use effectively. I'm not very good with her. But all of her buffs she's gotten means that she can just apply so much pressure to people in so many different ways. And I think that does actually put her in A tier, but near the bottom of A tier for sure. She's right near the bottom. There'd be no one else beneath her. But yeah, still very, very strong. I don't think there's much else to say about that. You know, she denies good teams from being able to stay healthy a lot of the time, which can cause issues for coming for saves and things like that. So that's good. Next up is Ghostface, who is a bit of a weird one. Got buffed base kit not that long ago, but they nerfed his sorry, but they nerfed his add-ons kind of at the same time to compensate, and it meant overall he was nerfed if you always use the Chewed Pen and Address Book add-on, because his Shroud comes back like 2 seconds slower. It used to be 16 seconds, and I think it's 18 now. When you use all of the strongest things, which kind of sucks. Once again, this is behavior taking away something and not giving anything in return. Like, Ghostface is one of the people that suffers from, I have a couple good add-ons, and that's literally it. You know, crouch speed ones, the ones that increase stalk when leaning by a tiny amount, the ones that increase the marked duration normally don't matter 99% of the time. And that can be tough. You know, it means that you can go through Chewed Pens very quickly. I think that puts him kind of in the C tier. Against good survivors, he's going to struggle. But given his his downing potentials and his ability to be stealthy and get near survivors, I think that would put him. I'm not sure above Wraith or not, honestly. Just thinking about it in my head, I'm like, Wraith, you know, has better stealth, but does the insta down count for more? I'm gonna say yes. I think it just about carries him over and puts him there. Yeah. Next up is Demo, who you can't buy anymore. Rip. Which is a shame because Demo's one of the most balanced killers in the game. Got portals for travel. It's nowhere near as strong as Freddy's portals, but has good anti-loop mechanics with the shred. A little bit detection with the portals as well, which is nice. And is a really good user of Save the Best for Last, which is a very strong perk in the right hands. Pretty much no one uses it better than him. Them, it. It's a weird monster, probably doesn't have pronouns it goes by. Um, so I think straight away you're somewhere in the B tier. B tier is like the balanced killer kind of thing. Like, yeah, this killer's all right as they are. I mean, Bubba's not all right as he is, but that's beside the point. And I think I would quite happily put Demo. Hmm, I think I'd put Demo here between Billy and Doctor. I think better stuff in terms of anti-loop than Doctor a lot of the time, especially being able to make use of Say the Best for Last, which is a really strong perk for Demo, not on everyone. Please don't use Say the Best for Last on Nurse. I will laugh at you. Um, Next up is Oni, who I'm quite happy to stick in A tier. I personally would put him beneath Huntress. I think a strong Huntress is better than a strong Oni because even as a strong Oni, you're playing as an M1 killer a lot of the time, and a really good team, you're going to struggle to get those hits to get your power going, which is annoying. But he's got insta down and speed on his side. You know, he's got like Billy's bonuses from that. But obviously he can't bump, and his insta power is easier to use and can pressure survivors a lot easier and can be used at loops, different types of loops. Um, you can't curve as him, but you can curve around things very quickly when you hit, which is really good. After that, we have got Deathslinger, who is someone who got nerfed not too long ago. They increase his terror radius up to 32 meters. They made it so that you can't quickscope anymore. And it was one of these where one or the other needed to happen because he was a bit too strong in the 1v1, and they decided to do both. So it kind of left him with nothing to work with. The only bonus is he breaks out when his chain breaks, he comes out stunned a little bit quicker. And he actually walks faster when aiming down sights, which you shouldn't be doing as a Deathslinger. You don't want to be aiming down sights constantly because none of the survivors know you're going to shoot, and just move accordingly. It's not like Huntress where you can follow up really quickly with another shot. You have to go and reload, so they know kind of what the game is there. You also can't aim when you're out of uh, ammo, when you've not got a shot loaded in, which is really annoying because then that you can't use that as a mind game, which would be quite fun. As a result, I think this puts him actually in. He was definitely like top B tier before. I'm tempted to say he's like maybe top C tier now. Because he's still decently strong in the 1v1, but he just has no map pressure, which makes him quite tough to play. There are some strange people who claimed that it wasn't a nerf and he actually got buffed, who are mad. Simple as. Yeah. After that, we have got Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head is a strong killer. One who probably isn't going to get changed anytime soon based off of how they worked around his power before and what changed about him. And as a result, he is A tier in my opinion. I would put him probably beneath Oni, definitely above Plague. He's got really strong power for using at loops, and being able to tunnel people out of the game by caging them is ridiculously strong, and is a very massive reason to play him. It is strange that he's so good at tunneling people out, and I don't know if that. I can only assume the people playtesting it, even if people do playtest the behavior, that it didn't ever occur to them that that is ridiculously strong to be able to just get rid of people like that out of the game. I've seen it time and time again. Pretty much every Pyramid Head will play like that, where they will get someone out of the game by caging them. And there'll be people like, oh, but just don't walk in his trail. Well, then you go down at the loop even faster and you get tunneled out normally on the hook. So, yeah, it doesn't work. Okay, next up is Blight, who is definitely the closest thing we have to Nurse in terms of power. Um, really strong mobility, some of the best mobility in the game, arguably even better than Billy's. Um, and on a lot of loops you can use his power really effectively, and even when you can't, if you hit someone and then go into your power and they haven't made it to a loop already, that person's down. It's the same kind of thing with Nurse, and arguably the same thing with Spirit, specifically Old Spirit, where you just catch up, and boom, you can down them, which puts him in S tier. I I still, I still think there's a massive difference between Nurse and Blight, though. Even the best Blights can't perform anywhere near as good as the best Nurses. She is insane. I will repeat that. She is insane, and I don't like her. I don't think she's healthy for the game. Okay, after that, we have got twins. So about 3 people in the world are playing twins at any given moment, because it takes about 10,000 years for Victor to come off of cooldown after he lands a hit, and it is a joke. But that is beside the point. She is a strong killer. She is obviously an M1 killer a lot of the time, but the pressure she gets from leaving Victor at hooks is massive. I still don't know why that's in the game. And he is very good at getting people at loops because of how quickly he moves. He's very small. The toy sword was nerfed, which was his best add-on, and Behavior keep making brown add-ons that are the killer's best add-ons for some reason. That was nerfed. I think it's half the amount of time that got taken off of it. 0.25 seconds now instead of 0.5 seconds taken off. But still very strong, and definitely makes her A tier. I would be tempted to say that she is quite possibly, maybe since the nerf, just a little bit under Pyramid Head, but definitely very, very strong. Okay, after that we have got Trickster. Trickster is someone who's been a bit all over the place with changes to him since his release, which, he's not even been out, or he's been out about a year now, and he's probably had more changes than most other killers. Got his add-ons messed about with, he's got his base power messed about with from the PTB to live, and then I think twice more after that. And it's kind of left him in a bit of a position. He being a 4.4 killer means you obviously have to rely on your ranged techniques, and a lot of the time Huntress is just better. There's barely any difference in terms of what they do to down people, and Huntress is just so much better so much of the time. It's so strange that Trickster exists when Huntress exists. But you don't see many Tricksters at high rank because, like I said, people would rather just play Huntress, who is free. So it is very strange that he does exist. I think this puts him in. Honestly, I'm tempted to say top of D tier. I just think the other killers just can do more to play around him. But maybe that's silly of me, but I'm going to put him there. Okay, next up is Nemesis, who was someone I played quite a bit of originally. I've played less and less now because I find the anti-loop killers quite boring. But he is another person who got a nerf to his add-ons. His strongest add-on, Marvin's Blood, the yellow add-on, reduced by a lot. I think went down from 50% to 33%. And as a result, it just takes him a little bit longer to get his power, which just sucks. It just doesn't make any sense that they would change that. I don't get it. But he sits in B tier for me. Whereabouts? I would say he's got such good palette breaking potential that I think that puts him at the top of B tier, above Bubba. Really good, even better, better than Demo's palette break, better than any of these people's palette breaks. That's what really sets him apart and where his power lies. Which is weird that that's like his main thing, but yeah, he's one of the best killers, if not the best, for breaking palettes. Which there are a lot of in the game. Not the map specifically, although there are a lot in the game map, but in the game in general. And then we got Pinhead, who, we start getting to the killers here who are just copy pasted from the last killer. I don't get it. Another killer with a really basic anti-loop mechanic with an extra external thing, uh, passive ability that is just really boring to play against. Um, I do think he's a little bit stronger than Nemesis though, but still in the B tier. I haven't got much more to say about Pinhead. I think everyone has their own opinions on Pinhead in terms of his strength and how fun he is to play. Um, but yeah, he's there. Um, After that, we've got the Artist, another killer with an anti-loop power, um, who she she doesn't have too many things going for her in a lot of ways when you first look at it, but her birds technically give her map pressure, or technically give her mobility, which translates to map pressure because she's able to send them out constantly to get information about survivors and pressure them off gens, etc., which is really strong. Her anti-loop can be very good provided the survivors just run around the loop. However, a lot of survivors will just run away when you set your birds up. So then you have to wait to get your birds back, or you have to send them off and wait to get them back. So then you're out with the power for a bit, which doesn't help her massively. She's still pretty strong though. I honestly would put her in A tier, uh, just above Plague, um, and below Twins. And then we come to the Onryō, Sadako, the most recent killer, who I played a few matches with. Seen a lot of gameplay of her, played against her. Most people play her really badly, and I think people think that means she's actually worse than she actually is. I think she's got a lot of strength in hit and run, more so than Wraith does. She's got slowdown in terms of the tapes, but it's not as strong as Pig's. She's got anti-loop that's a bit meh. It kind of is similar to Spirit's passive phasing kind of thing, but stronger than that. She's a lot of things kind of mashed together, and as a result, I think that does with her buffs, and this is with her buffs. I think without her buffs, she would have been C tier, but with her buffs, I think she sits in B tier. And personally, I think she is probably just at the top of it in front of Pinhead. You could maybe make an argument that she slips into A tier and maybe swap around Plague with her. But yeah, I think that's roughly whereabouts she sits. We've pretty much got a nice normal distribution curve here. Pretty much exactly what it should be. Obviously, Nurse is ruining everything because, well, you know my opinions on Nurse. But yeah, and that's all the killers. That's all the killers we have in the game. Pretty sure there's no one that's just been missed out. Obviously, Nia is S++ as the entity, but we don't talk about that. But yeah, let me know if you agree with this. I'm sure people don't, and that's fine. That's the whole point of having opinions. As about something as, I was going to say convoluted, not convoluted, something as interpretive as a killer's strength. And yeah, this is very much open to debate on where they actually lie. So I'd love to hear people's opinions on what you think I put in the wrong place, what I put in the right place, and your reasoning for it. You know, if there's any that you're like, yeah, no, that's really wrong, let me know why. I wanna, I wanna hear, and then maybe I'll be like, yeah, I agree. Actually, I should have put them in a different position because sometimes I will forget details, and I will not take into everything that you can possibly do with them. So it'd be interesting to have other people's insights on this killer tier list for Dead by Daylight. But thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't know how long this has run on for, probably a bit too long. And if you don't already, make sure you follow me on Twitch. Every now and then I stream Dead by Daylight. Don't know how much longer I'll be doing that given the game, but that's fine. and I play other games and things as well. And we chill out. And if you're not ready, feel free to subscribe, and you'll get more random videos, whether it's me messing about, doing dumb shit, or making tier lists that nobody asked for. But thank you once again for watching, and I will see you guys very soon. But bye bye for now.